Captain Jaewon Park stared at his ship's main screen, his mouth slightly open. In his 15 years of leading scout missions for the Galactic Council, he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, the object is maintaining position," reported Officer Min Park, her fingers dancing over the control panel. It's huge." The unknown vessel hung in the darkness of space like a sleeping giant. It was at least 5 times larger than their scout ship, with a smooth, dark hull that seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars. No visible weapons, no obvious engine ports, just elegant lines that spoke of advanced engineering far beyond the Council's capabilities. "Send the standard greeting package," Jaewon ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. This was why the scout fleet existed, to make first contact and welcome new species into the Galactic Council. But something about this ship made his skin crawl. "Sending now, sir." Min pressed the sequence of buttons that would transmit peace messages in all known galactic languages. Seconds ticked by. The bridge crew held their breath. "No response," Min reported. "Should I?" Suddenly, every screen on the bridge flickered. The ship's lights dimmed, then brightened, then dimmed again. Ji-won felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "Sir, our sensors are going crazy." Officer Rin called out from his station. "Some kind of energy field is spreading from the vessel. It's not like anything in our database." Jaewon watched in amazement as a soft, blue glow began to emanate from the strange ship's hull. His own vessel's systems started showing warning messages one after another. "Get me the rest of the scout fleet," he ordered. "All ships reporting the same effects, Captain," Min said, her voice shaking slightly. "Ships 3 and 4 have lost all sensor capabilities. Ship 2 reports their navigation system is acting strange. Our weapons systems just turned themselves off." Jaewon felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever this vessel was, it had disabled half his fleet without firing a single shot. The most worrying part, he was pretty sure these were just its passive defenses. "Sir," Rin called out, "I'm detecting movement. The vessel is opening." A section of the dark hull smoothly slid apart, revealing what looked like a hangar bay. The space inside glowed with the same soft blue light that now covered the ship's exterior. "Captain," Min's voice was barely a whisper, "we're receiving a transmission. Audio only." Jaewon nodded, and Min activated the ship's speakers. A calm, clear voice filled the bridge. "Galactic Council Scout Fleet, this is Captain Yoon Park of the Earth vessel Silent Thunder. We apologize for any disruption to your systems. This was an automated response to your scan attempts. Please be advised that your scanning frequencies are potentially harmful to our sensor arrays. We will transmit safe scanning parameters shortly." The bridge crew looked at each other in confusion. The voice continued, speaking their language perfectly. "We have been expecting contact with the Council for some time. However, we must ask that you maintain your current position. Any approach within 50,000 kilometers will trigger additional defensive measures. We mean you no harm, but we must ensure the safety of our vessel." Jaewon found his voice. "This is Captain Jaewon Park of the Galactic Council Scout Fleet. We acknowledge your request." He paused, then added, "May I ask how long you have been in this sector?" There was a moment of silence before the reply came. "Captain Park, we have been observing this sector for approximately 70 of your standard years. Your recent expansion into this region made contact inevitable. We chose this location for our first official meeting." 70 years. Ji-won felt his legs go weak. This ship, these humans, had been watching them for decades without anyone noticing. "Sir," Min interrupted, her eyes wide as she looked at her console, "we're receiving the scanning parameters. They're teaching us how to scan their ship safely. But Captain..." She looked up at Jaewon, her face pale. "These specifications suggest their hull is made of materials we thought were theoretical." Jaewon sank into his command chair. In one brief encounter, everything he thought he knew about his place in the galaxy had changed. As he stared at the massive vessel through his viewport, one thought kept running through his mind. The Council was not ready for this. "Send an emergency message to command," he ordered quietly. "Priority 1. Tell them we're going to need a bigger welcome committee." Senior Admiral Hanley paced the bridge of his flagship, Starseeker. His best diplomatic vessel had just arrived at the contact point where the human ship waited. The reports from Captain G1's scout fleet had kept him awake for 2 nights straight. "Commander Sun Kim, are you ready?" he asked through the communication screen. The commander nodded from her diplomatic vessel. She was known for staying calm in tough situations, but even she looked nervous. "Yes, Admiral. My ship is prepared for the meeting." "Remember," Han said, "we need to understand who these humans are and what they want. Be careful, but don't show fear." The diplomatic vessel moved forward slowly. The massive human ship, Silent Thunder, stayed perfectly still. Its dark hull still gave off that strange blue glow that had disabled the scout fleet systems. Commander Sun straightened her uniform and waited. A light flashed on her console. The humans were calling. "This is Commander Sun Kim of the Galactic Council," she said clearly. "We wish to talk." The screen lit up, showing the human face. It was Captain Yoon Park, looking remarkably similar to them. "Commander Kim, welcome. We are ready to receive your delegation. Please follow the guidance beam to our main dock." A soft green light appeared, marking the safe path to the huge ship. Sun turned to her crew. "Well, let's not keep them waiting." Their ship glided forward along the green beam. As they got closer, they could finally see just how massive Silent Thunder really was. Their diplomatic vessel, one of the largest in the Council fleet, looked like a toy next to it. The docking was smooth, smoother than anything Sun had experienced. It felt like they were being carried by invisible hands. When the airlock opened, Sun led her team into the human ship. The corridors were wide and bright, with walls that seemed to glow softly. Everything looked clean and simple, but Sun could sense the incredible technology hidden beneath the surfaces. Captain Yoon met them in a large room with windows showing the stars outside. "Commander Kim, welcome aboard Silent Thunder." Sun noticed something strange. "Your ship, it's so quiet. We can't feel any engine vibration." Yoon smiled. "That's because we don't use conventional engines. But that's not why you're here, is it?" "No," Sun agreed. "We need to understand something. How long have humans really been watching us?" "Let me show you something," Yoon said. He waved his hand, and suddenly the room filled with holographic stars and planets. "This is a map of known space. Known to us. That is." Sun gasped. The map was huge, far bigger than Council space, and everywhere there were small marks showing human observation posts and bases. "We've been studying the galaxy for over 300 years, Yoon explained. "We found it best to watch and learn before making contact. Your council is young, growing, learning. We didn't want to interrupt that growth." "But why show yourselves now?" Sun asked. "Because you're reaching a critical point in your development. Some of the experiments your scientists are conducting could have dangerous consequences. We decided it was time to offer some guidance." Just then, alarms started blaring. A crew member rushed in. "Captain Yoon, we've detected ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Lots of them." Yoon didn't look worried. He waved his hand again, and the star map changed to show nearby space. 20 ships had appeared, pirates, based on their signatures. "It seems," Yoon said calmly, "that the Razor Claw pirates have decided to crash our meeting. They probably hope to steal technology from both of us." Sun felt her heart race. The Razor Claws were the most feared pirates in Council space. Even their best military ships struggled against them. "Should we return to our vessel?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "That won't be necessary," Yoon replied. He touched a small badge on his uniform. "Bridge, initiate defense pattern 3. Non-lethal response." Sun watched the space battle that followed, But it wasn't really a battle. The pirate ships suddenly stopped moving. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Their engines shut down. In less than 5 minutes, 20 of the most dangerous ships in the galaxy hung helpless in space. How? Sun couldn't finish her question. Simple technology. Really, Yoon said, as if he were discussing the weather. We believe in stopping fights before they start. Sun looked at the human captain with new understanding and fear. She needed to tell Admiral Han right away. The Council wasn't just dealing with advanced technology. They were dealing with a civilization so far ahead of them that they could end battles without firing a single shot. The real question was, what would the Council do with this information? The captured pirate ships floated silently in space. Commander Sun Kim watched as Captain Yoon Park calmly drank from a cup of tea, acting as if disabling 20 warships had been no harder than tying his shoes. You must have questions, Yoon said, setting down his cup. Before Sun could answer, her communication device buzzed. Admiral Han's face appeared, looking worried. Commander, are you safe? Our sensors show multiple pirate vessels. We're fine. Admiral, Sun replied. The human ship. They stopped the pirates. All of them. Without firing a shot. Impossible, Han whispered. Captain Yoon stepped into view of the communication screen. Admiral Han, perhaps a demonstration would help explain things. Would you like to see how we handle situations like this? The Admiral nodded slowly. Excellent, Yoon said. He pressed his badge again. Bridge, begin recovery operation. Let's show our guests how we do things. Through the massive windows of the meeting room, Sun and her team watched in amazement. The blue glow from Silent Thunder's hull grew brighter. Suddenly, beams of soft green light shot out, connecting to each pirate ship. What's happening? Sun asked. We're scanning their ships, Yoon explained. Checking for hidden weapons, booby traps, that sort of thing. Also making sure none of their crew are injured. The screens around them came to life, showing the inside of the pirate vessels. Sun gasped. She could see the pirates frozen in place, looking confused and scared. Don't worry, they're perfectly fine, Yoon said. We've just paused them temporarily. Now, watch this. He made a simple hand gesture. The green beams turned gold. One by one, the weapons on the pirate ships began to disappear. Where are they going? Admiral Han asked through the screen. We're converting their weapons back into raw materials, Yoon explained. The pirates can keep their ships, but they won't be hurting anyone with them anymore. Sun watched as complex weapon systems simply vanished, leaving behind empty spaces in the pirate ships. It was like magic, but she knew it had to be incredibly advanced science. And now, Yoon continued. The most important part. The golden beams pulsed once. Inside the pirate ships, the frozen crews began to move again. Their faces showed confusion as they realized all their weapons were gone. This is Captain Yoon Park of the Earth vessel Silent Thunder. Yoon broadcast to the pirate fleet. Your weapons have been removed. Your ships have been tagged with our signature. If you return to piracy, we will know, and next time we won't be so gentle. I suggest you find honest work. The pirate ships started their engines, which Yoon had allowed them to use again, and fled as fast as they could. You let them go? Sun asked in surprise. Of course, Yoon replied. Everyone deserves a chance to change. Besides, they'll spread the word about what happened here. That will do more good than putting them in prison. Admiral Han's voice was shaking slightly. Captain Yoon, what we just saw, it goes against everything we know about physics and technology. How is this possible? Yoon smiled. Admiral, humanity learned long ago that the laws of physics as you understand them are just the beginning. We discovered that the universe is far more flexible than anyone thought. What you saw wasn't about having better weapons or stronger shields. It was about understanding how to ask the universe nicely to do what we want. Sun looked out at the stars. Ask the universe nicely. A simple way to explain a complex truth, Yoon said. Your scientists are close to making similar discoveries. That's part of why we're here, to make sure those discoveries don't cause problems. Admiral Han cleared his throat. Captain Yoon, I must report this to the Galactic Council. They'll want to know everything about human technology. Of course, Yoon nodded. But remember, what you saw today was just a small demonstration. Silent Thunder is actually one of our older ships. We chose it for first contact because we didn't want to overwhelm you. Sun felt a chill run down her spine. If this was an old ship, what were their new ones like? As if reading her thoughts, Yoon added, Don't worry too much. Humanity has no interest in ruling or controlling the Council. We just want to help guide you through some dangerous waters ahead. Looking at the space where 20 pirate ships had been effortlessly disabled, stripped of weapons, and sent away like scolded children, Sun wondered if the Council was ready for this kind of help. The universe, it seemed, was a much stranger and more wonderful place than anyone had imagined. The main chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so noisy. Representatives from 300 species filled the huge circular room, all talking at once. The news about the human ship had spread fast, and everyone had something to say about it. Counselor Moonta stood at the center platform, waiting for quiet. As head of military affairs, he had spent the last 2 days studying the reports from Admiral Han and Commander Sun. What he had found scared him more than anything in his 40 years of service. Silence, he finally shouted. The room gradually grew quiet. Fellow council members, Moon began, his voice strong, but his hands shaking slightly. What I'm about to show you will change everything we thought we knew about our place in the galaxy. He pressed a button on his podium. The huge screen behind him lit up, showing a map of council space. Then, one by one, small dots of light began to appear. Hundreds of them. Thousands. These, Moon said quietly, are human observation posts and bases. They have been there for centuries, watching us, studying us. And we never knew. The room exploded with noise again. Moon waited for it to die down. But how? Asked the representative from the Blue Star Systems. Our scanners are the best in known space. How could we miss all this? Moon took a deep breath. Because human technology is far beyond ours. They can hide entire space stations from our best scanners. They can turn warships into harmless cargo vessels without firing a shot. They can. He paused. They can do things we thought were impossible. He showed them the video from the pirate incident. The room watched in stunned silence as 20 of the most feared ships in the galaxy were disabled and disarmed like toys. The human captain said this was an old ship, Moon added. An old ship. Can you imagine what their new ones can do? The room burst into panic again. Some representatives were shouting about preparing for war. Others wanted to surrender immediately. A few were crying. We have to do something, shouted someone from the back. Do what? Moon asked sharply. Fight them. You saw what one old ship did to those pirates. Hide from them. They've been watching us for centuries. Run away. Their technology makes our fastest ships look like they're standing still. A small figure stood up in the front row. It was Jin Lee, one of the youngest members of the council. She rarely spoke at meetings, but now she stepped forward. Counselor Moon, she said clearly, you're scaring everyone by showing what humans can do. But shouldn't we look at what they did do? Moon frowned. What do you mean? Look at the pirate video again, Jin said. The humans could have destroyed those ships. They could have killed the pirates. They could have taken their ships. But what did they do? They took away the weapons and gave them a chance to change. She walked to the center of the room. They've had bases in our space for centuries. They could have conquered us any time. Instead, they waited and watched. They didn't interfere until they thought we might accidentally harm ourselves with new technology. The room was quiet now, everyone listening. And think about this, Jin continued. They chose to reveal themselves with an old ship. Why? Because they didn't want to scare us too much. They're trying to be gentle with us. Moon nodded slowly, like parents watching over children. Yes, Jin said. And now they think we're old enough to meet them. Isn't that exciting? One by one, the council members began to calm down. The panic turned to whispers of wonder and curiosity. But at the back of the room, Security Director Kang watched with dark eyes. He saw something different in the human ship's power. He saw technology that could make him the strongest person in the galaxy, if he could just find a way to take it. Moon noticed Kang's expression and felt worried. The humans might be peaceful, but some people in the council might not be wise enough to accept their help gracefully. As the council members continued talking about this new future, Moon wondered what other surprises the humans had in store for them, and he hoped everyone would be smart enough not to do anything foolish. After all, you don't want to make enemies of people who can turn warships into scrap metal with a wave of their hand. Jin Lee walked through the quiet halls of Silent Thunder. After her speech at the council meeting, Captain Yoon had invited her to visit the human ship. She still couldn't believe how peaceful everything felt here. You spoke well at the council, Captain Yoon said, walking beside her. You understood our intentions better than most. Jin blushed slightly. I just said what seemed obvious. You've had countless chances to harm us, but you never did. They entered a large room that Jin hadn't seen in any of the reports. The walls seemed to be made of stars, and in the center was a strange table that glowed softly. What is this place? She asked. We call it the History Room, Yoon replied. He touched the table, and suddenly they were surrounded by moving images. Let me show you why we really stayed hidden for so long. Jin watched as scenes played out around them. She saw humans taking their first steps into space, their early battles, their mistakes, and their learning. Like you, we nearly destroyed ourselves several times, Yoon explained. But each time, we learned. We grew wiser. And when we finally reached the stars, we made a promise. The images change, showing other alien races, some Jin had never seen before. We found civilizations that had destroyed themselves with technology they weren't ready for, Yoon continued. Entire species gone because they discovered something too powerful before they were wise enough to handle it. Jin understood. So you decided to watch over developing civilizations, to make sure they didn't make the same mistakes. Exactly, Yoon smiled. We became guardians, in a way, but secret ones. We learned that if we showed ourselves too early, civilizations would either become too dependent on us or too afraid of us. New images appeared, showing council ships. Jin recognized some of them. Research vessels working on new technologies. Your scientists are brilliant, Yoon said, but they're about to discover something very dangerous. Something that could harm many worlds if not handled correctly. What is it? Jin asked. A way to manipulate space itself, Yoon replied. Your people are very close to discovering how to fold space in ways that could tear holes in reality. Without proper understanding, it could be catastrophic. Jin felt cold. Is that how your ships work? By folding space? In a way, Yoon nodded. But we spent 100 years learning how to do it safely. We had accidents at first. Entire research stations disappeared. We don't want that to happen to your people. He waved his hand, and the images disappeared. The room returned to normal. There's something else you should know, Yoon said seriously. We're not the only advanced species out there. There are others, not as friendly as we are. We've been quietly protecting the council from them too. Jin's eyes widened. Other advanced species. Protecting us. From what? Yoon touched the table again. New images appeared, showing strange ships and dangerous-looking creatures. There are races that would gladly enslave developing civilizations, or worse. We've been keeping them away from council space for centuries. And now, Jin asked, now it's time for the council to know the truth, to understand that the galaxy is more complex and more dangerous than than they imagined, but also to know that they have friends willing to help them grow safely. Jin looked at Captain Yoon. But why tell me all this? I'm just a junior council member. Yoon smiled warmly. Because you showed wisdom when others showed fear. The council will need people like you in the days ahead. People who can understand that great power doesn't have to be threatening. Just then, Yoon's badge beeped. His face turned serious as he listened to a message Jin couldn't hear. It seems, he said grimly, that we need to return to the council quickly. Director Kang is planning something foolish. He thinks he can steal our technology. Jin felt her heart sink. That would be a terrible mistake. Yes, Yoon agreed. But perhaps it's good that this is happening now. The council needs to see how we handle those who choose conflict. As they hurried back to the ship's bridge, Jin wondered what would happen next. She had just learned that humans were secret guardians of peace in the galaxy. Now she was about to see how they dealt with those who threatened that peace. She just hoped Director Kang wouldn't do anything too stupid. He would, of course. But that's another part of the story. Director Kang stood on the bridge of his secret warship, the Shadow Blade. He had spent years building this ship, making it the most advanced vessel in Council space. Now he would use it to take what he wanted from the humans. Sir, all systems are ready, his second-in-command reported. The special shielding is working. The humans won't see us coming. Kang smiled. While everyone else at the council had been arguing, he had gathered a fleet of 30 ships. All of them had special stealth systems that he was sure would hide them from human sensors. He was wrong. On the bridge of Silent Thunder, Captain Yoon and Jin Lee watched Kang's fleet appear on the screens. Should we stop them? Jin asked nervously. Yoon shook his head. Let them come closer. Sometimes people need to learn lessons the hard way. Kang's fleet moved silently towards Silent Thunder. On his bridge, Kang felt proud. His stealth systems were working perfectly. Soon he would have human technology, and then no one could stop him. Sir, one of his officers shouted. Our engines, they're changing. Kang looked out the window, and his mouth fell open. His mighty warship was turning pink. Bright, sparkly pink. All of his ships were changing color. What's happening? He demanded. On Silent Thunder, Yoon pressed his badge. This is Captain Yoon Park. Director Kang, I believe pink suits your ships better than black. Don't you agree? Kang's face turned red with anger. Fire all weapons, he ordered. His crew pressed their buttons. Instead of deadly beams, streams of bubbles shot out from their weapons. Rainbow-colored bubbles that floated harmlessly in space. I particularly like the bubbles. Yoon's voice came again. Much nicer than plasma torpedoes, don't you think? By now, the council had called an emergency meeting. On the main screens, they watched as Kang's fearsome fleet turned into something that looked like a child's birthday party in space. Try the boarding teams, Kang screamed. His soldiers put on their battle suits and tried to launch towards Silent Thunder. But when their suits activated, they started playing cheerful music. Their weapons turned into water pistols. This is impossible, Kang shouted. He pressed buttons randomly on his control panel. Each button made a different silly sound. Chicken clucks, cow moos, duck quacks. Jin couldn't help laughing. You're not hurting them at all, she said to Yoon. You're just making them look silly. Sometimes, Yoon replied, embarrassment is the best teacher. Kang's crew was trying not to laugh at their commander as he pressed more buttons, creating a barnyard concert of animal sounds. Stop this at once, Kang demanded. Of course, Yoon said calmly. As soon as you surrender and agree to face council justice for your actions. Never. Kang pressed what he thought was his secret weapon button. His command chair turned into a bouncy seat, bobbing up and down while playing Ring Around the Rosie. The council chamber was filled with laughter now. Even the most serious representatives couldn't help themselves. Kang's attempt to steal human technology had turned into the funniest show they had ever seen. This is your last warning, Yoon announced. Surrender now, or we'll be forced to add glitter." That was too much for Kang's crew. One by one, they stepped away from their stations, raising their hands. "We surrender," his second-in-command said, trying not to giggle as Kang bounced up and down on his musical chair. Council security ships arrived to arrest Kang and his followers. As they led him away, his expensive uniform now covered in pink glitter, Kang finally understood something important. You can't fight people who can turn your greatest weapons into toys. Back on Silent Thunder, Jin looked at Captain Yoon with new respect. "You could have destroyed them all," she said, "but instead you chose to teach them a lesson without hurting anyone." Yoon nodded. "Violence is easy. Peace is harder. But peace with a sense of humor, that's human style." As Kang's now pink fleet was escorted away, still trailing rainbow bubbles and playing cheerful music, the Council realized something important. The humans weren't just powerful. They were wise enough to use that power with kindness and humor rather than anger and force. And that, more than anything else, proved they were exactly the kind of friends the Council needed. 1 month after the Pink Fleet incident, as everyone now called it, the Galactic Council gathered for a historic meeting. The main chamber was packed with representatives from all member species. Today, humanity would officially join the Council. Captain Yoon Park stood at the center of the chamber. Behind him, displayed on the huge screens, was a live feed showing thousands of human ships appearing all across Council space. They dropped their cloaking devices one by one, finally revealing themselves to everyone. "By the stars," whispered Admiral Hanley, "there are so many of them." The ships were beautiful and strange. Each one was different from the others. Some were as small as fighter craft, others larger than space stations. Silent Thunder, which had amazed everyone a month ago, looked simple compared to some of these vessels. "Fellow members of the Council," Yoon began, "for centuries, humanity has watched over this part of space. Today, we stop hiding. Today, we become your official partners." He waved his hand, and the room's holographic system came alive with images. "This is our gift to the Council," he said. "We will upgrade your medical facilities first. No more incurable diseases. No more waiting for treatment. Every world in Council space will have access to advanced healing technology." The room filled with happy whispers. Then Yoon continued. "Next, we will help solve your energy problems. Clean, safe power for every planet. No more shortages. No more pollution." Jin Lee, sitting in the front row, smiled. She had already seen some of these plans during her visits to Silent Thunder. "But most importantly," Yoon said, his voice becoming serious, "we will teach you. Not by giving you our technology all at once. That would be dangerous. Instead, we will help your scientists understand the true nature of space, time, and energy. You will learn to develop these things safely, in your own way." He touched his badge, and a new image appeared. It showed a massive space station unlike anything the Council had ever seen. "This is Hope Point Station," Yoon explained. "The first of many joint human council facilities. Here, your best minds will work with ours. Together, we will solve the challenges that face us all." Admiral Han stood up. "And what about defense? There are dangerous things out there, aren't there?" Yoon nodded. "Yes, which is why we're also creating a joint defense force. Your ships and ours, working together to protect Council space. We will teach you to defend yourselves while making sure the power doesn't go to anyone's head." He smiled. No more pink fleets needed. Everyone laughed, except the empty chair where Director Kang used to sit. "But remember," Yoon continued, "what you've seen of our technology so far, even these ships you see now, these are not our most advanced vessels. Those will remain hidden for now. Not because we don't trust you, but because some knowledge must be earned slowly." Jin stood up, like parents teaching children to walk. "Exactly," Yoon smiled. "You take small steps first, then bigger ones. Then, one day, you run on your own." The Council voted unanimously to accept humanity as full members. As celebration lights filled the chamber, Yoon had one last surprise. To show our trust in the Council, he said, we have chosen one of your own to be the first director of Hope Point Station. He looked at Jin, someone who showed wisdom when others showed fear. Jin's eyes widened as she realized he meant her. Together, Yoon said to the whole Council, humans and Council species will make something greater than either of us could create alone. This is not an ending. It's a beginning. As the celebration continued, Admiral Han walked up to Yoon. Just one question, he said quietly. Silent Thunder, you said it was an old ship. How old exactly? Yoon grinned. By your calendar. About 300 years old. It was one of our first deep space vessels. Han shook his head in amazement. And you used it for first contact because if we'd shown up in a new ship, we might have scared you all away, Yoon laughed. Sometimes the best way to make friends is to not show off too much too soon. As the celebrations went on, Jin looked out at the stars through the chamber's huge windows. Out there, human ships and Council ships were already starting to work together. A new age was beginning. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity's real ships kept their eternal watch, making sure nothing threatened this new friendship that promised to change the galaxy forever.